And Dr. Nick, why don't we start with you giving us a little bit of background about yourself?
Happy to do that. Thanks for having me on, Mike. So I am a physician. I did a general surgery residency at UT Southwestern in Dallas, Texas. And then I did 2 years of research under an NIH grant, researching cancer genetics. I had 2 years left of my general surgery residency, but I chose not to go back because during those 2 years of research, I became incredibly passionate about disease prevention, particularly through lifestyle. And, we all know that the number one thing we can do to prevent disease is adopt a whole food plant-based diet. So I've become a really passionate advocate for a whole food plant-based diet, as well as changing our activity levels, really being intentional about our sleep and mindfulness, because all of those things, all of health is really interconnected. So I've created a lifestyle medicine practice that helps individuals take the steps they need to reach their health goals through their lifestyle.
All right, perfect. So we're totally about this lifestyle and making good choices, good habits, and how that relates to living your best, funnest, most optimal life, right? I mean, nobody feels good if they've got health problems, right? I think that's probably a universal thing.
Right. Yeah. Taking pills, doctor's visits, anxiety, back of your head. Also, how you're influencing the people around you with your choices and the health that you're projecting. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Well, I've heard a lot of talk recently. I don't know how much you can comment on this, but just about optimizing your immune system and helping to ward off this coronavirus that's out, or at least if you get it, that minimizing the negative effects. So what do you recommend, or what can you recommend in terms of lifestyle and how that might optimize somebody's immune system?
Great question. And the data has actually been really clear, not just out of China, but the data that we're getting from Italy right now. Of course, the information is constantly evolving, but we're seeing that the people at the most risk, and I mean, your risk changes not just as you age, but as a function of the comorbidities you have. And one of the comorbidities that is most likely to affect your risk of getting the coronavirus is the presence of hypertension, elevated blood pressure, and any heart disease, of course, respiratory disease as well. So all of these cardiometabolic factors, diabetes, obesity, all influence your likelihood of getting coronavirus. So when people talk about, oh, I'll wait till later to improve my health. Oh, it doesn't matter that much. I don't have disease in my family. Well, diseases are all interconnected in the same way health is all interconnected. So it's really important to live a healthy lifestyle because it also decreases your risk of these kinds of contagious diseases. Now, what we're seeing is, and there's been quite a bit of interest, and what I'm hearing is a lot of family practitioners, internal medicine doctors recommending probiotics, because there has been some research suggesting that probiotics may help with respiratory diseases. And a lot of the listeners probably already know that our gut is the largest immune organ in our body. And what we feed our gut is going to directly impact the microbiome, the tens of trillions of bacteria, viruses, and protozoa that colonize our gut. And when I say gut, I'm talking about our small and in particular our large intestine. So that's a good way to remember it. Largest immune organ is the large intestine. And so what we feed our gut is much more about the fiber, the phytonutrients, so the minerals, the vitamins that we're eating. That's going to have a much bigger impact than taking probiotics. And the research has been really consistent on that. So
yes,
I think that the number one thing that we can all do is really take care of our gut, feed it not just fiber, but nutrient-rich, plant-based whole foods, and that's going to really impact our immune system, and that has a direct relationship to our ability to ward off respiratory infections.
Okay, so you mentioned probiotics. So you're saying, am I right in interpreting here that you're saying that it's more important to eat the correct diet than to take probiotics?
Yeah, Absolutely. And even when they do studies where most probiotics don't have what they say they have, and for a lot of people, the probiotics go right through your system without impacting your flora whatsoever.
Okay.
But even in the studies where they use really powerful probiotics that are hard to find and they know that it's influencing the person's gut, that influence is in most cases, not very impactful on the immune system. Meanwhile, we know that people who eat a fiber-rich diet, a diet rich in nutrients, they have a much lower risk of developing colds, flus. Even when they're on a ventilator, their likelihood of getting a pneumonia on the ventilator decreases.
Okay.
So it's not about taking a pill. It's about the effect of your total diet.
Okay. So diet is an incredibly important way to influence the proper gut bacteria, and then in turn your health is what you're saying. It sounds like, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And something that's really interesting that I want to add, because this is new emerging research, we also have bacteria, viruses, protozoa, fungus that colonizes naturally. These are friendly microorganisms. They also colonize our lung spaces. And the bacteria, viruses, protozoa that we have in our gut influence the microorganisms that we have in our lung. And of course, as you would imagine, the microorganisms living in our lung influence our likelihood. Most of the research has been done in asthma. So they really influence our likelihood of developing asthma over the course of our life. And we see asthma rates going up as people adopt a less healthy diet. But it also influences our risk of these respiratory diseases like a coronavirus.
Right. Okay. All right. Now let me ask another question. I think that it sounds clear from what you're saying. People need to focus on the proper diet. That's going to help out from this diet component of boosting your immune system. Well,
absolutely.
How long does it take? Does it take 6 months, a year? Do you have any idea? Does it take 3 days?
Well, no, that's the exciting thing. Researchers from Yale, a group of doctors in Yale in 2015 did a study where they just switched people who were eating a high saturated fat diet, switched them to a high fiber diet, and in just 72 hours, they completely changed the types of, and when I say types, the different species and genuses of the bacteria living in their intestine. And the bacteria are the easiest microorganisms to study, so that's what we know the most about. But you can completely change. We have really a rainforest it's a real ecosystem in our large intestine, and that gets completely changed when we change our diet. And it doesn't take long, just a few days.
All right, so that's motivating, that's empowering for people to hear, especially if someone's had a lifetime of bad habits. And I know that I did for a long time as a young adult, just things I realized I needed to change. It took me till I was about 30 years old. I'm 50 now, but and hearing that I had high cholesterol to start really working at that. But yeah, this is a wake-up call for everyone, I'd say, with this coronavirus. It's got everyone's attention front and center. And then you're saying right now that people can influence their gut bacteria in 72 hours.
Absolutely. And you're not just influencing your gut bacteria, you're influencing the way your gut speaks to your immune system, and you're influencing the microorganisms that are in your lung as well. So you're changing your whole physiology when you start adopting a healthy diet. And it's similar to what we see with smokers. You know, smokers, when they quit, in just a few days, they start repairing their lung tissue. So, you know, our body is incredibly dynamic. It's incredibly capable of healing, but we have to support that healing. If we don't support the healing processes, it's not going to do it.
Yeah, it's a machine. Yeah, I think it's you probably heard this before, right? Given the right conditions, the body has a miraculous ability to heal itself. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about here. Just we know what the right conditions are, right? There's no, it doesn't sound like there's any controversy over the right conditions. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think there's any controversy among people who have read the scientific literature.
All right. Okay. All right. Now, moving on from just diet. Now, well, would you say that diet is the most important component of an immune system? And then what are the other ones?
Well, it certainly is one of the most powerful. There's no really strong, robust data on head-to-head comparisons for our immune system. Mm-hmm. But obviously exposure, air quality is another really important factor.
Right.
And we know that the most pernicious, the most dangerous air pollution is actually these really small particle pollutants. And the best way to avoid those pollutants is not just to stay indoors, but to be in green spaces, because greenery captures all of those small air particles, and it really acts as an incredibly powerful filter. So
Right.
part of what we need to do to support our health is spend time outdoors in green spaces. And that's why it's so important for us to try to create living spaces that feature lots of parks, lots of greenery, because our bodies are meant to be around green, healthy, breathing environments.
Interesting. I've noticed it just myself stepping outdoors in the last few days. I feel like the air quality is better. Like I feel like, and I'm in a little bit more urban area here where I am right now this week. I feel like I didn't notice it before, but maybe I was breathing in the pollutants from all the cars and trucks and the carbon monoxide, and that is so much less these days. So I'm maybe it's I don't know, like a sugar pill effect. I don't know.
Yeah, the
A
placebo.
placebo. Yeah. But what do you think about that?
Well, we have pictures, we have satellite pictures showing how dramatically the air pollution has decreased as a result of these quarantines in China, in Europe, and now in the United States. So that's actually a documented fact that the air quality changes dramatically when we, in the same way that our body, when we start giving it rest by not, adding all these toxins through food, in the same way, when we stop polluting the air, the natural mechanisms that the earth has to, help create healthy air, filter that air so that we're breathing in, oxygen without all the toxins associated with it. That happens on its own. So it's been documented so far, and
Good.
there is an incredible loss of life in the United States every year. We're talking, some authors estimate in the hundreds of thousands every year due to air pollution, because a lot of the toxic effects aren't just on the respiratory system, but also the cardiac system, our heart, and also the increased risk of stroke, because blood vessels all line our brain, and those get eroded over time because of air pollution. So it's something we really need to think about. Once we solve this pandemic, the air pollution pandemic is also serious and worth our attention.
All right. Yeah. I know I'm a big supporter of electric vehicles, not because they're perfect, but just because I feel like at least where all those cars and trucks are, if everything was electric, there wouldn't be that giant amount of air pollution going on. You could concentrate it somewhere else, wherever they're producing electricity, or use renewable sources, or capture it better, or I don't even know what, but there's always better, like solar, wind, other ways of non-polluting production of electricity. So hopefully things will move in that direction, I hope, over time, because I could see, based on what you're saying, that would be a huge help to people's health. And I really hadn't thought about it in that way before.
Yeah, and that's something where people who maybe disagree about the science of climate change, no one wants polluted air. I think we can all agree that we don't like smog, and we don't like seeing our kids have it, we don't like seeing these rates of asthma go up. We don't like seeing people die of the flu because their immune system's weakened. We don't like seeing all this heart disease. So if we can just agree, hey, let's clean up the air, it's a way of making climate change a little bit more concrete, more tangible, and it builds some consensus. So hopefully it will be something that we think about and address. And this experience with the coronavirus is teaching us that we can have a huge effect on the quality of our air just through the way we live our lives.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you brought up about that. What about sleep? And what's another component about immune system? I think there's sleep, exercise, right?
Yeah, exercise. Exercise is incredible. Obviously, it's a little challenging for some people who are used to working out in the gym. The gyms have been closed. But walking outside, you get the especially if you can do it in a nice green space, it's worth maybe doing the drive or getting to somewhere, whether it's a beach or a mountain where there's good quality air, and enjoying that. Exercise is incredibly important for our immune system. And
when you say exercise, what are you talking about specifically? Because I know, like you said, gym. Well, I know there are people that go to the gym and all they do is resistance training. They don't get really any aerobic stuff in there. I mean, my thought is aerobic is maybe more important for your mental health, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that hasn't been studied in a really consistent manner. We do know, based on the exercise recommendations that exist, that the proportion of resistance training to aerobic training or cardiovascular intense training, you definitely want to be doing more cardiovascular type training or activity. So if that's doing stairs, if that's running, if that's swimming, all of those activities count. Oh, doing weight-bearing activities is also important for bone strength. So I recommend not just swimming, but we want to be exercising at least 30 minutes every day. And that's just bare minimum what we should all be doing in our lives. And so if you're not there, no reason to feel guilty, but just it's a goal to work towards. And 5 of those days should be aerobic. And then the other 2, resistance, is what the general recommendations are. But again, we don't have the same quality data for exercise in terms of what's the exact right kind of exercise the way we do around diet.
But it sounds like it's a combination. It sounds like combination of strength and aerobic, but mostly aerobic from what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. I think doing both, they each have their own benefits, not just for our metabolism, but for our cardiovascular health. So I really recommend trying to do both. And there's, yoga counts as resistance training. So it doesn't have to be necessarily pumping iron in a gym. There's a lot of ways to get both. And swimming actually happens to do quite a bit of both. But again, you want the weight-bearing thing. So it's about finding, the complementary activities that are going to really build health as we age.
Okay, yeah, because I know I've been doing aerobic every day. It's this whole coronavirus has got my mind on this and optimizing my immune system. But since I can't go to the gym, I usually go to the gym every so often. I've been doing just push-ups and planks on the floor. You don't need anything for that. Just use your own body weight. So that's what I've been doing.
And that's exactly what I do too, and you don't have to, you can start. A lot of the work I do with my clients is, working on creating habits. And a lot of times you can start with really small habits. I started doing push-ups with just 1 push-up a day.
Yeah.
All I made myself do is 1 push-up a day, and slowly you add and you add and you add, and now I'm doing 100 push-ups in a day. So it's just build on it and be patient, because these are habits we want to be sustainable. We want them to last our lifetime. So don't be in a rush to accomplish so much that it becomes something that you're like, oh, I can't do this. Just build slowly.
Yep, and I find too, especially when you're just beginning, like if you're out there watching this video and you're not doing any exercise programs, well, you're the person that's going to see the most progress the quickest. Because when you've been doing it for a while, like me, I don't really see any progress. I know it's healthy because, and I don't want to overdo it, so I kind of maintain. But that great feeling of, wow, I just went from being able to do 2 push-ups at a time to 8. I mean, that's a huge gain, and I don't see those anymore.
Yeah, I hear you. And something that a lot of my clients realize, and is probably part of the most exciting aspects of the work I do, is you start influencing other people, even if you're not seeing the dramatic gains that you want to see. My son, who's only 6 years old, likes doing push-ups with me because it's something that he sees me doing and he takes pride in it. My other son likes meditating with me when I sit down to meditate. So these are, and maybe the 10 minutes of meditation I do in the morning, maybe that doesn't feel like that much, but when you start seeing how it affects the people around you, then it's another confirmation that intentionality, that practice that you put in over time, it yields results. You just have to be patient. So.
Okay, well, how about those last 2 or 1 or 2 components? I guess it would be sleep and mindfulness or meditation.
Yeah.
How does that work into your immune system and how it impacts your immune system?
Well, we know that in the same way that food can increase cortisol, which is that stress hormone that really throws our metabolism out of whack, sleep is incredibly important for decreasing not just our cholesterol in the moment, but throughout the day. And it also regulates our metabolism. It has an influence over that gut microbiome that we were talking about before.
Sleep does?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, bacteria, they replicate very quickly. And so when researchers look at the populations of bacteria that occur in our body while we're actively running around and eating, the population, the proportion of different populations change quite dramatically while we're sleeping because we're not eating and we're resting, our heart rate goes down. And so all of that physiology impacts what organisms are active and which ones are more dormant. And so sleep has, on our resting muscle tone, of course, like I mentioned, our hormone signaling and regulation. Sleep touches all of those things. And we really, really, really depend on the reset that happens with restorative sleep. It's not just, of course, it has tremendous benefits for cognitive function, but we're really not appreciating the breadth of the influence it has on our body if we're just thinking about it in terms of memory or alertness the following day, because it really impacts our whole body.
I can see that. I totally, it's like, that's the repair time. Is that what you say also? When you're
yeah. And a lot of people, absolutely. A lot of the, and people are going after this with fasting. There's a lot of different ways we try to encourage our body to be actively engaging in repair, but sleep is the most tried and true. Our body naturally knows what it needs to do when we sleep, and that's a lot of repairing the cells and also recycling a lot of the cellular contents that can't be used. So we think so much about, I've got to eat all these nutrients because my body uses all. Well, our bodies have almost everything it actually needs to function appropriately within itself. It just needs to have the time and the space to recycle all of those materials. So all of those nutrients we need. So sleep, all kinds of things happen while we're sleeping. It's an incredibly dynamic time for a lot of the repair processes in our body. So we really need to respect it and try to give it as much time and really attention as we can.
Okay. All right. Speaking of time, we're almost out of time, but I want to mention two other things to get your input on. One is stress and managing that, and then also let folks know how they can contact you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so stress, another, and I won't dwell on that too long because I think we all appreciate the way our entire day can change when we take some time to do something mindful. And I tell some of my clients, you don't have to necessarily, if you're meditation averse, something like doing some stretching, lighting a candle and just spending a couple moments, watching the flame, going outside and looking at the stars briefly, listening to a favorite song. All of these things, if done mindfully, can be incredibly restorative. But I really encourage people to take a few moments, especially while we're all cooped up, we're all stressed out. We have a lot of demands on us while also dealing with this whole new threat that it involves a lot of unknowns. Take some time for yourself because you need it. Your body needs it. And there's all kinds of great studies that have been done showing the link between mindfulness and stress reduction, and also long-term cardiovascular and even cancer-related outcomes. So there's a lot there. We're still learning. We really don't know exactly how much benefit we can get physiologically from mindfulness, but as the literature continues to be released, it's a really exciting area because it seems as though there's a lot that can be gained. And of course, all of these things, like I said earlier, are interconnected. If you have a more mindful day, you sleep more easily. If you sleep more easily, you make better decisions about your food the following day. You feel more energized to exercise. So it's so important to think about all of them and not just be really concentrated on one at the exclusion of everything else.
Right. And I feel too that, at least from my point of view, if I can't sleep at night, I know why. It's only one reason. It's because I haven't exercised enough that day. I'm not tired. If you're not tired, you're not going to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's right on target.
So, okay. So how can folks contact you?
Well, I have a website. It's nickborja, BORJAMD.com. And if you're interested in chatting, if you want some one-on-one help, I'm doing a lot of telemedicine now. So happy to talk to someone over the computer or over the phone and work and help you with your lifestyle. I offer a free initial consultation. So if you want to find out, ooh, would this work for me? I've got this special need. I have this health goal. Give me a call. Let's set up a time to chat, and I'd love to meet you and see if I can help.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And hopefully folks will contact you. We're going to have a link here on the video below. And thank you for your insight and your advice during this very difficult and unique time. Hopefully it's served to convey to folks that they can control their own health, that they have so much more power maybe than what they thought. And
Absolutely.
And can really increase the level of enjoyment and fun in their lives. I think that's the biggest benefit out of that. So,
Absolutely. Well said.
all right. Thank you.